You told yourself this would be the last time you text them back, the last time you said yes to a job that drains your soul, the last time you sabotaged your own peace. But somehow, here you are again. Have you ever felt trapped in a cycle, repeating the same decisions that leave you hurt, disappointed, or empty? Even though you know better, you keep walking the same road. Why? Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." What if the reason you can't break free isn't because you're weak, but because there's a silent force inside you, one you've never fully looked at? This force is what Jung called the shadow, the hidden part of you that carries shame, fear, and wounds too painful to face. And yet, it also holds your power. The shadow isn't a villain. It's the version of you that was rejected, silenced, or forgotten. And it speaks in the only language it knows: repetition. Every mistake you repeat isn't random. It's a signal, a pattern, a call from the depths of your psyche. When you choose the same toxic relationship, the same self-destructive habits, the same internal monologue that says, "You're not enough," that's not failure. That's a cry for healing. In this video, we're not just talking about mistakes. We're diving into the subconscious patterns that control your life until you finally recognize them. So perhaps the real challenge isn't to fix yourself, but to listen more closely to the quiet part of you that's been replaying the same scene, not because it wants punishment, but because it longs to be understood. This isn't a video about your flaws. It's a journey into the patterns that shaped you and the silent truths that just want to be heard. Let's begin. You're not broken, but something inside you is repeating. Have you ever noticed how the same types of relationships keep showing up in your life? Different faces, same pain? Or how, no matter how much you grow, there's always one area where you keep getting pulled back? This is not coincidence. This is the unconscious running the show. Carl Jung believed that what we don't consciously face will we unconsciously become, and nowhere is that more evident than in the patterns we replay. Let's say, for example, you grew up in an environment where love felt conditional, where approval had to be earned, and affection came with strings attached. As an adult, you might find yourself drawn to people who make you prove your worth. Not because you want pain, but because part of you is still trying to resolve that early wound. This is the shadow in motion. It's not just the angry outbursts or the jealousy or the self-sabotage, it's the why behind them. The shadow acts like a looped recording. It whispers, "If I can just get it right this time, maybe I'll finally be enough." And so we repeat. We chase unavailable people. We stay in roles that shrink us. We say yes when our whole body wants to say no. Not because we're weak, but because the wound still lives. And the deeper truth? The shadow isn't trying to hurt you. It's trying to protect you. It learned long ago that avoiding pain meant survival, even if that means repeating familiar suffering, because at least it's known. Until we pause, until we notice, until we ask, what part of this story have I never questioned? That's where awareness begins. And once you bring awareness to the pattern, you loosen its grip. The same mistake, seen through the eyes of understanding, becomes the beginning of something new. You're on the edge of something good, a new opportunity, a healthy relationship, a moment of peace you've worked so hard to reach. And suddenly, you shut down, you pull away, you procrastinate, you tell yourself you're not ready, not good enough, not deserving. This is self-sabotage, the act of pulling the rug out from under yourself just as life begins to offer you solid ground. But here's the deeper truth. Self-sabotage is never random. It's the shadow's most familiar language. Think of your unconscious like a thermostat. It's been set to a certain emotional temperature based on past experiences, pain, rejection, betrayal. When things get too good, the shadow senses danger. It says, "This is unfamiliar. This doesn't match our past. It must not be safe." So you sabotage, not because you want to fail, but because success threatens the narrative your psyche has built for survival. If you've always been the caretaker, you'll resist being cared for. If you've lived in chaos, peace might feel boring or even terrifying. If you've defined love through struggle, ease may look suspicious. And so you push it away. Self-sabotage shows up as the job you ghosted right before the interview, the relationship you picked apart until it crumbled, the dream you kept planning but never acted on. But again, this isn't weakness, it's protection. The shadow believes it's keeping you safe by keeping you small, because somewhere, somehow, your nervous system linked expansion with danger. Until you bring that pattern to light, you'll keep circling the same mountain, thinking it's fate when it's just memory playing on repeat. The path out isn't through shame, it's through curiosity. The next time you feel the urge to pull back, ask yourself, what part of me is scared of having what I truly want? Because healing isn't about striving harder, it's about listening deeper. You've been here before, at the edge of something new, a breath away from breaking the cycle, and yet your feet stay still. It's not because you're lazy or because you're afraid of effort. It's because you know deep down that stepping into something new also means leaving behind the familiar pain that shaped you. And strangely, that pain feels like home. There's a part of you that still clings to the pattern, not because it's what you want, but because it's what you know. The old ache is predictable. The loop may hurt, but at least it makes sense. So you repeat. Not because you're failing, but because a part of you still believes that healing might cost more than you're ready to give. But here's the quiet truth. You don't have to fix everything all at once. You don't need to rewrite your whole story in a single breath. You just need to pause, to notice the moment when the old impulse starts to rise, and choose, even if it's trembling, to stay with yourself. No distractions, no running, just being with the feeling that's asking to be seen. That's where the pattern begins to loosen its grip. Not when you fight it, but when you sit with it. Not when you shame yourself, but when you listen, gently, honestly. You might hear echoes of old voices telling you you're not enough. You might feel memories you thought you'd buried. Let them come. Let them speak. Because every time you choose to face the shadow instead of fleeing it, you reclaim a little more of your life. You become a little more whole. The cycle doesn't break in grand gestures. It breaks in quiet moments, in the softness of your own breath, in the stillness where, for the first time, you no longer abandon yourself. That's where the real change begins. You were never meant to be perfect. You were meant to be whole. And wholeness doesn't come from cutting out the parts of you that hurt. It comes from turning toward them, softly, bravely, and saying, I see you. I'm still here. Because the shadow never wanted to ruin you. It only wanted to be acknowledged, to be included in the story you keep rewriting in your head every time you stumble. All those patterns you thought were signs of weakness, the overthinking, the sabotage, the hesitation, they were never proof that you were broken, they were invitations. Every mistake repeated was a message left unopened. Every trigger was a trail leading back to something sacred and forgotten. A younger you, a scared you, a silenced you. And now you're starting to listen. That's the work, isn't it? Not changing who you are, but returning to who you were, before the world taught you who to be. When Carl Jung spoke of the shadow, he wasn't talking about monsters in the dark. He was talking about the parts of ourselves we hide to be accepted, But what if what you've hidden is the most human, most beautiful part of you? The anger that protected your boundaries, the sadness that showed you cared, the fear that kept you safe, even your shame had a purpose once. Now the choice is yours. You can keep calling it sabotage, or you can start calling it a signal. A doorway, a compass. So pause with it, write with it, speak with it. And maybe, when the next familiar ache rises, you won't run. You'll recognize it. You'll sit beside it like an old friend. And you'll choose not out of fear, but out of love. Because the shadow was never the enemy, it was always the part of you waiting to be held. What has your shadow been trying to tell you? Share your story below, because your truth might be the key someone else needs to unlock their own.